Hey, I'm Lauren from TastyPC.tv, and so I'm doing a review of both the Roccat Ryos MK Pro and Ryos MK Glow mechanical keyboards. So let's get started. So starting with the Roccat Ryos MK Glow, I have to say that both these keyboards really are incredibly sexy, and the camera does them absolutely no justice at all. Look, I must have spent about 3 hours literally just moving the lighting around, fiddling with the camera settings, trying to make it look on camera how it does in real life, to no avail. Like, the camera does them no justice at all. They are so sexy, and I love how cool they look as well. Like, you can definitely tell they've been designed with gamers in mind. So we've got this jumbo integrated wrist rest, which I know a lot of people are going to be happy with, because I know there's a lot of people out there who can't comfortably use a keyboard without a wrist rest. We've also got this like micro dotted surface that not only looks really nice, but it's like smudge proof. Now, I should start by saying, because there's always confusion in my keyboard reviews, is usually when I do keyboard reviews, I look at the UK keyboard layout with like the short shift key and like the big kind of like backwards R-shaped enter key, whereas I'm going to be looking at the US version of both the Ryos Glow and MK Pro, which was fine. I was still able to use it fine, just because I'm kind of used to pressing kind of this part of the enter key because it's kind of the biggest section of it, so I just remapped it so this was the enter key, and then the enter key was this key instead, so it was still fine for me to use. Okay, so with the keyboard, we've got 5 macro keys and 3 thumbstick keys, and I do really love these. These are like a great place for your thumb. I mean, I'm a bit of an odd angle here, so I can't really show you properly, but they are a great place for your thumb. Although the issue that I had with them is that kind of I don't hit the space key with that much force. I only put like kind of like that much actuation force into it, and if I applied the equal amount of force to these buttons, it doesn't actually press the button. Like, you've got a proper like click down on it. I found it to be very stiff, and it kind of, I don't know, it kind of took away from like the wow factor from me, especially because I've seen other keyboards where they're like proper buttons rather than being kind of stiff like this. And I don't know if they've done it so that you don't accidentally kind of press them while you're typing, but unless you type like some weird way, kind of like this or something, I don't see you kind of pressing them with your wrist. But they are nice, but they're just a bit stiff for me, I find. Okay, so here we've also got the easy shift key, and this works kind of the same as the shift key in that it gives the keys an extra function. So obviously you all know how shift key works, or I should hope you do anyway. It's exactly the same as that. Like, you could program, for example, Q to be a macro, and then just the same as you would activate, you know, kind of capital Q, you could hold the easy shift instead and activate the macro you've programmed. Like, it's, you know, it's that simple. Now, by default, it is an easy shift key, but you can go into the software and make it a caps lock key instead, or disable it completely, or you can enable Roccat Talk, which I can't really go into that much detail about because I don't have a Roccat mouse to kind of, you know, have a play for myself. But it's when you for example, if you programmed a macro on the mouse that needed the easy shift key, then if you were using Roccat Talk, you could hold down the easy shift key on the keyboard, and it would be as if you were holding down the easy shift key on the mouse as well, if you kind of get what I mean. So this keyboard has Cherry MX black switches, and you can get it with either Cherry MX red, blue, brown or black, and the keycaps are laser engraved, and it's also got really nice blue backlighting. So if I just plug it in to show you, and as you can see, it is a really nice blue. I mean, it's probably quite glared out with how I've got like the lighting and stuff at the moment, but it's the same shade of same shade as blue as with the MK Pro, so I can show you properly kind of when I set the lighting up to show you the different lighting options the MK Pro's got. But you do have 6 different brightness settings with this one, either completely off or 5 different brightnesses, and then yeah, so that's it. With the Pro, you do have quite a few lighting options, but with the Glow, the only one you've got is kind of to have them backlit or not. Although you can have them kind of fade after a certain period of time if you set it in the software, but I'll show you that when we're looking at the software. So obviously you can see we've got the media keys on the FN keys here. Now, when you're programming the macros and the thumbstick keys and the easy shift keys, you can either do it using the software or you can do it on the fly. So to program it on the fly, you just hold FN and record, and then you've got the option of either pressing the macro that you want or the thumbstick key, or if you want the easy shift key, hold the easy shift key and the key. So for example, those two, type what you want, so for example hi, and then just hit FN and record, and then that's it, saved. Although when you do it on the fly, it records any like time delay, but on the software it doesn't. So what I'm going to do is kind of pull off some of the keycaps to show you the switches, but before I do, I should probably mention this keyboard has got N-key rollover and a 1ms response time. So before I pull off some of the keycaps to show you the switches, I just first wanted to let you hear the difference between the keys with just switches and the ones with both switches and stabilisers. Remembering obviously this is going to sound different depending on what colour cherry mix switch you've got, and this one's obviously cherry mix black. So firstly, just completely bottoming out. And then kind of a mixture of bottoming out and just hitting the actuation point. So I'm just going to pull them off with a keycap puller I got from a different keyboard because this one doesn't come with one. So firstly you can just see the cherry mix black switch, and then if I take off this one, you can see both the switch and the stabiliser, and obviously it's using cherry stabilisers. So before we move on to the MK Glow software, taking a quick look at the back of the keyboard. Unfortunately it doesn't look quite as new as it otherwise would, but I have been using it quite a bit. We've got these 5 rubber pads, and then we've got these 2 stands, and the stands have actually got rubber on the bottom, which is great because obviously it means when you've got the stands up, you're not going to lose any grip. And then we've also got these channels for cable management, and then we've got an integrated USB cable with a really nice connector, and a Velcro strap with the Roccat logo on it. So then looking at the MK Glow software, firstly we've got where you can configure the caps lock key. So you can either have it as like the easy shift key or just a standard caps lock key, or have it disabled completely if you prefer. Then here you can configure the FN key to be a right Windows key if you'd rather have it like that. And then here you can either enable or disable certain keys. So for example, you could have the Windows keys disabled. And then here we've got the character repeat options, which the repeat delay is changing how long you have to hold down a key for it to start repeating itself, and then the repeat rate is just how quickly the key repeats itself. And then here you can change the brightness of the LEDs, and here you can make the LEDs dim or get brighter after a certain amount of time. And now this is the sound feedback, and you can set it so you can hear a voice come through your PC speakers if you have one of these selected. And if you have this one selected, it will talk you through program and macro on the fly. This one will let you know when you switch between profiles on your keyboard, and this one will let you know when you've unlocked an achievement, which I'll talk to you more about when we're looking at the RAD tab. And here you can change the volume, and it's actually the same voice as the guy who does the Ryos trailer, which is actually pretty funky. We then just have the driver reset button, which puts the keyboard back to default. So if we go to the key assignment tab, this is where you can program your macros, and you can choose any of the keys apart from the escape, FN or easy shift key, although depending on what key you choose is what options you've got for the primary function. So for example, if we select W, if you go to the primary function, the only options you've got is either to remap it, disable it completely, or just have it as the standard W button. But if you choose something like M1 instead, then you've got a lot more options. So for example, you could make it a media key or a timer, or you could choose from any of these options, or you can make it a macro. And you have the choice of either choosing from a load of pre-saved macros. So if I choose this one, and now it would just type R when I press M1 and I'd reload, or you could create a new macro. And you can either add it to an already existing set, or you can make a whole new set. So let's make a new set and then just call it test. And then I can select to add a new macro to that set. So let's call it high, and then you can hit record and, for example, type high and then just stop recording. And you've got the option for it to record delays or not, or to repeat the macro, and if so, how many times. But if you do want to make a new macro, rather than going through the menu, you could just click Macro Manager instead. But then if you give something a secondary function, that's when you hold down the easy shift key to activate the macro. But then down here you can see we've got 5 different profiles, and you can either create a new profile, load a saved profile, save a profile, or edit a profile. And when you create or edit a profile, you can assign it to applications. So then if we go to the Roccat RAD tab, now over here it keeps a record of your keystrokes, etc. And you are able to unlock achievements, which was what the whole trophy notifications option was about on the sound feedback bit, which is pretty cool. But here you can reset your stats if you want to. And then finally we've got the update and support tab. So then looking at the Ryos MK Pro, now this is very, very similar to the MK Glow, except from firstly you've got loads of different lighting options, which I'm going to show you in a second. It says MK Pro rather than MK Glow. On this side you've got a headphone microphone jack, and on that side you've got 2 USB 2 ports. And one thing that I really love about the cable with the MK Pro is that obviously, despite obviously how many cables you've got, it is just a single cable out of the top of the keyboard that then splits down here. And this cable was actually braided, unlike the Glow's cable, which is just like a standard black cable. But it is too thick to fit through the cable management channels on the back of the keyboard, but it comes out the top anyway, rather than in the middle like it did with the Glow. So before I take you for a look at the MK Pro's lighting software, I really quickly just wanted to pull off one of the keycaps to show you the switches, because I'm using the Cherry MX Red switch version of the MK Pro rather than Cherry MX Black switches like I was using with the MK Glow. So if I just pull off one of these for you, and there you go. So then onto the MK Pro's lighting options, firstly on the main control tab. Now you've got the choice to make your LEDs go into a starlit sky mode or fall asleep after a set amount of time of being AFK. And I do really love the starlit sky mode, I think it's really pretty. I think it would have been nicer if it was a little bit faster though, just because then it would kind of look more like twinkling stars, but I do really like it. And then the fall asleep is when all of the LEDs turn off one by one until they're all off, and it does take a few minutes, so I sped it up for you a little bit so you don't have to just watch them like slowly turn off. So then if we go to the key illumination tab, we have layer illumination. Now as you can see down here, you can choose which areas to be lit. So at the moment everything's lit, although of course you could turn off whatever areas you don't want on. But back here, this allows you to select what areas are lit up, depending on whether you're using the keyboard normally or whether you've held down the FN key or the shift key. So at the moment, if I hold down the easy shift key, only the macros and thumbstick keys are lit up, and if I hold down the FN key, only the F keys are lit up, although you could change that, so when you held down the FN key, maybe the WSD key is also lit up. Now here you have LED feedback, and here you have the option to select this. And basically, if I just quickly make a macro and make one of these keys have an easy shift function, so for example E, when I hold the easy shift key, E will now also light up. Now LED volume indicator is something that only comes into play when you're changing your volume, and it's a pretty cool indicator, so it's something that I just leave ticked. So then over here we have key lighting effects. Now fade effects works kind of the same way as reactive lighting does, and when you press a button, the light will temporarily come on, and you can choose for how long, which is pretty cool. But I think the best thing about this is if you've already got the LEDs on, then it'll work kind of like the opposite of reactive lighting, which is something that I've really wanted on a keyboard, and I do really love this. Like, this is how I've been using the keyboard, even when I've been gaming and stuff. I do really love this. But then ripple effects, I do think this is really cool, whenever you hit a button, like the LEDs kind of ripple out, although sadly you can't type too fast or else they kind of like cancel each other out. You have to type more kind of like this speed, but I do think this is really cool, I do like it. And then lastly we have key lighting control, where you can choose specific LEDs to either be on or off regardless of what zones you've got on. So this is really where you get to start like customizing what buttons are lit up and what aren't, so you could like have specific buttons lit up depending on what game you're playing, or you could create patterns, or whatever you wanted. And then if you wanted to, you've also got the option to make certain keys flash, like so. So moving on to the conclusion, starting with the Ryos MK Glow, it's currently 120 quid, and it's got all the features you'd expect to find on a gaming keyboard, and it does them pretty well. Like, I really like the easy shift function, and I really love the thumbstickies as well. I just wish they hadn't been so stiff, but it does look really great, and if it's the type of keyboard that you're after, I definitely recommend considering it. And it's currently £10 cheaper than the K95, so it comes in at a pretty decent price. So I'm going to give it my Sweet Award. Now with the Ryos MK Pro, it's currently £150, which is about £30 more expensive than the Glow. And I think that unless you're one of these people that doesn't really care about lighting options, then I definitely think it's worth the extra £30, because you've got the two USB 2 ports, headphone, microphone jacks, more onboard memory, and of course a load of decent lighting options. And I do think it's another great keyboard from Roccat, and I would recommend it to you, and I feel like it deserves my Sweet Award. Unless of course you're one of these people that, like I said, don't really care about lighting options, in which case the MK Glow is probably better for you. But given that the MK Pro has been lighting designed, it's probably worthwhile me mentioning obviously that Cherry are going to be releasing Rgb Switches, which is where you can choose the colour of each of the individual LEDs. Now, from what I've kind of heard behind the scenes, which I can't really say that much about, what I last heard is that it's not coming out soon enough for it to warrant me changing my thoughts on the keyboards at this time. But I know that some people will kind of wait for it to come out, and some people they'll be completely happy just having blue LEDs. But I thought that I should mention it just in case you didn't know already, just so you're kind of better informed when making a keyboard purchasing decision. But to kind of summarise, they're two really great keyboards that I would definitely recommend considering, which is why they both got my Sweet Award. But you know, when it comes to keyboards, it's all down to kind of what you want from a keyboard and what it is that you're after. But that was my review of both the Roccat Ryos MK Glow and Ryos MK Pro. If you liked the video, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and want to see more of my videos. And thanks for watching.